We are in. Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
How you doing, Carlo?
Pretty good, yeah. Tomorrow I will be off to meditate in the wilderness, otherwise known as Northern Ireland. So yeah, just getting ready to take a break from song for a little bit, and well, take a break from this computer. That'll be good.
When was the last time you actually left that computer for a sustained period of time?
About 7 to 8 months ago, about when COVID hit. Actually, probably before COVID even hit. I was already sat at this computer 24 hours a day. So, yep.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Why are you up, Deoxys? Why are you up? It must be what? 6 a.m., 7 a.m.? Who knows?
The man is insane. I was talking to him the other day and we were just chatting after a game. The man's nuts, man.
Yep.
Right. We'll give it a couple of minutes for people to come through. But yes, we are here to talk about tournaments yet again. And I guess the first place we're probably going to start at is the TSL, right?
TSL. The humble onion smugglers humbly have managed to 4-0 their first week.
Mm-hmm.
Good start. I was the one who almost lost. So almost lost. But yeah, got the 4-0. Big one.
I was going to say, you didn't lose, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, by a mighty single wound, I win the game.
Yep, that's the way to do it. Win a game by a wound. That's perfect 40 points, that is.
Absolutely screw over the fantasy league points for whoever's got me, but a win's a win.
Win is a win.
1-0. 1-0 in the fixtures. Who else we got that's gone unbeaten in the first week? And what do we think? Are we scared of them, Mickey?
Nah.
Scared of everybody, obviously.
Nah. Who we got this week? We've got
we got Bremen Highlanders.
Bremen Highlanders this week, yeah. Who did go 3-1.
They went 3-1 in their first week, so it'll be a big matchup in the old Be For Better League.
Yep.
Hashtag.
I've been doing a little bit of prep for my game. We've got 2 mirrors, right? We've got Free Folk Mirror and Stanis's got a Barra Mirror.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah. Free Folk Mirror, Barra Mirror.
Lanny Stark.
I've got Night Watch into Targaryens, which leaves
Lannister Stark.
Van playing Lannisters into Stark, which is a classic matchup with the Mountain That Rides. We'll see which way that one goes.
Definitely.
Yeah. So over in the better league, what have we got going on there, Mickey? We got
Lightning Lords. Yeah, the Lightning Lords are 4-0.
4-0'd. Big.
Obviously, Craig Groose in the chat is regular here and regular tournament player. Yeah, Groose taking his Lightning Lords.
And Theo also off the top of my head.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess they must have played into Knights of Summer, I guess, at 4-0 there. So yeah. Easterosi Water Dancers.
It's the
stacked German team.
Yeah.
Or one of 2 German teams. They go 3-1 against.
They played.
Which one of those did they play into?
They played Steadfast, right? No. Yeah, they played Steadfast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think. And then we've got Off the Wall Brawlers played into to Bremen, I believe. Or Steadfast Bremen, and it was Off the Wall Easterosi. So yeah. You'll be glad to know, Groose, that Carlo was the only one member of our team to not get a crushing as well.
Hey, I'm an efficiency player. Or
just a bad? No.
What do you think, Mickey? 2 Germans, yeah, maximum points, sure, why not? Good teams. We'll play into Bremen, see what happens there. Lightning Lords looking good. Steadfast, Game of Thrones boys, and Off the Wall Brawlers. What do we think? We think they'll bounce back?
Yeah, I mean,
Straight into Steadfast. Yeah, interesting.
I think Go Big or Go Home will pick up some games this week.
Definitely, I think. I think they have some strong players, even if we manage to squeak through. I squeak through.
Yeah. Um, I think Knights of Summer might pick up a win or two. Hang on, who are Knights of Summer playing? I should probably get the fixtures up, shouldn't I? That would be much better.
Well, that'd be like if we had like 4 planning or something like that. I hear there's another league, but probably uninteresting.
Yeah.
Not like they won the cross league game 3-1 or anything like that.
I mean, actually, I'm gonna go. Knights of Summer should be able to pick up some wins here. They're playing against Buddy Gang. This is
okay.
Without like saying that teams are bad. The Buddy Gang is probably one of the weaker teams from League A. And Knights of Summer from round 1 look like one of the weaker teams there as well. And I think George's predictions pretty much mirror that. That doesn't mean they're bad, they're just weaker.
There's a good cross-league matchup there. That's
Definitely.
going to go... Yeah.
So I'd really like that I'd like to see that go 2-2 or 4-0 to Knights of Summer, obviously.
Let's go Bees.
Let's go Bees. Then we see Steadfast versus Easterosi. Us versus Bremen. Lightning Lords got boys off the wall to Go Big, Go Home. The other end, Rightful Heirs playing Brotherhood. I think this is going to be really good. Brotherhood obviously did not do well, or at least did not do as well as expected.
Didn't take home the max points that people thought that they would.
Yeah. I could easily see that series going 3-1 to Rightful or 2-2, I think.
Okay.
Probably. I think Ariakis and Enline are phenomenal players. People talk about McKeister and Brett, but actually Ariakis and Enline are phenomenal. And I think if they take their games, I don't know what the individual matchups are. I could see those two winning. But I could see the Rightful Heirs taking games off McKeister and Brett again. It depends. Depends what Brett decides to do, I think.
Yeah.
If he turns up or not. But yeah, no, it's what we saw last week. So yeah.
Insert like that's bait meme. Insert.
That's bait.
Insert Mad Max meme right here. I'm gonna go away on holiday on absolutely good terms. I'm not gonna say anything bad about anybody today.
No, I know. But I'm just going off the performances, and actually Brett didn't play a bad game. Yeah. His opponent just played a much better game in the actual scenario. But yeah, so I do think that's going to be a really good series, that first one. Brulor Faithful.
Do you think Brulor are going to take any points off 3-eyed? 3-eyed look quite strong, right?
Yeah, the French 3-eyed Roosters did look really good.
Yeah.
I do think
I was glad to see didn't end up in our league. I was glad that we didn't end up paired with them.
Yeah, I think Brulor could take a game off them.
Okay.
I do think Brulor could take a game off them. Poof versus small accounts, I expect Poof to do real well there. Probably a 3-1 or a 4-0.
Yeah.
Westerosi.
The Warriors against the West Coast tournament. I think that's a strong win for the West Coast Rusty.
To be honest, I think it all depends on what time Deoxys decides to go to bed or wake up, because he could easily throw his game because he basically never sleeps. Or I don't really understand him.
He's an Australian living on UK time zones.
Big man.
I'm a Brit living on American time zones, so
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the TSL. That's most of the matchups.
Good start. Great kickoff. You know what I'd actually say is I was amazed at how many interesting close games were played. So there are a lot of 4-0s over the team matchup, but when you look at the individual games, loads of the games that got streamed ended up being super, super close, super, super interesting games that could have gone either way. So I was surprised at just how many really tight fought games there were.
Deoxys just in chat there saying he's probably going to be playing Tony in about 9 hours. Oh God, Deoxys. As much as I'd love you to watch this session, go to bed.
Ben, I kind of like offered. I offered Ben some times, and then yeah, one day he like came to me and was like, "Yeah, sure, we'll play that one tomorrow. That time you offered me tomorrow." And I like looked at the clock and I was like, that's in 7 hours and I haven't gone to bed yet. And I was just like, oh, I guess all right, cool. I'll go to sleep, and I guess I'll hopefully get up in time for it, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have to say, I'd offered him like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, and I was like, it's 6 a.m. and I'm still awake. I best go to bed. All right.
Oh, God.
Yeah, managed to make it through.
Cool. Nice to see you in chat, Euron. Good to see you along.
Yeah.
I thought we'd just stop by the current standings for the Fantasy League.
Fantasy League. Yeah.
My big man Gendry's rowboat in 5th, not too far out of the pack at the top. Rigged Carl, Fantasy Commissioner, rigged.
He auto-drafted it. It can't be rigged. It just automatically picked the top-ranked player for him.
Yeah.
What that means is nobody really knows. Nobody's better than just auto draft.
Well, Winter is Coming is. That's what we've learned. Whoever Winter is Coming is, he is better than an auto draft system.
Yeah, there we go. So far, one player can outperform the auto draft.
But yeah, I mean, George coming in stately, right middle of the pack. Respectable. Euron's there as well. Frerin, he's posts a lot. And then who's the unfortunate soul? Oh, Wop. Oh dear. I'm sorry for him. Who are his teammates? I'm not going to shout at them, but I just want to see.
Unplayed game, or that's.
Oh, he got McKeister, as we know. He kind of like didn't have a successful game. Francesco lost. He was one of the games who lost on stream, I believe.
Yeah.
Tony Stark from West Coast and Dakota. So all of those players had quite hard matchups, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of them won, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And yeah, just so it sounds like Wop just got a bad deal there with those 4 players he happened to pick this last week. I don't think a single one won, which is unfortunate.
Don't trade them away just yet, Wop.
Yeah. Yeah. They're gonna get wins. Okay, yeah. Cool. So that's the Fantasy League we see there.
All good fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good.
I hope I can do my first round picker, Scadman. A bit prouder this week. I got him some points, but nothing to write home about. Nothing first pick worthy. So let's see if I can get a bigger win this week.
Yeah, fair.
Playing from a random little laptop in the middle of Ireland, I assume.
Well, if you're not arranged your game for early this week.
On my absolute best. My absolute best game, as always.
Have you not arranged it for as early as you can this week so you can get it out of the way and done before you go?
I'm going tomorrow. I tried, but my opponent wouldn't play today, so...
That's fair enough.
That's unfortunate. I'll
all right,
do
then.
my best from
so,
the Emerald Isle.
You might, you never know, you might be better over there. The clear air might make you think better.
Yeah, a bit of fresh air.
Right. So that was the main first pit stop. We'll talk about the TSL. And just talk about what we'd seen this week.
Good start. Loads of hype. Hope it stays up. Hope people stick with it. Glad that people are getting involved in the team format. There seems to be a lot of people quite new to the essence of the team, as in being able to help each other, talk about tactics before the game. Some players are already really familiar with that, and that's like not new to them at all. They discuss tactics for their games with their local friends and their group anyway. Me and Mickey have always discussed loads of tactics before we go to tournaments and stuff like that. So that's new to some, and just same old for other people. But yeah, I hope the hype stays up because it's been pretty hyped so far, and that's all good.
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to say and what I've enjoyed is the number of people who will tune in to watch the streams, like just during the day, and like the number of people who step up. I know Carl's been looking to get into streaming for a while and getting like self kicked off, and he's just been like doing random like ad hoc streams almost, trying to grab games. We've seen like even the likes of Just
a ton of people
yeah.
just doing like ad hoc streams, like just like Discord based streams, and then loads of people just piling in and watching the game, and that's really interesting.
It's good. It's good. It's always good
Great
as
to have
well.
loads of ability to watch games of all different levels and keeping the interest high because of the team. I think the team basically brings that people are interested in games going on in their league. They're interested in like games going on from certain teams, and you never know who you're going to get paired up against later in the tournament. You're not necessarily just going to be paired up against the people that are winning. You could get paired up against anyone, so it's interesting to watch them play.
Definitely. And George saying there that his general viewership has gone up. We've seen it as well on the NRG streams I've done as well the last week. Around 30 to 40 kind of area, depending on which games you see and what times. But yeah, overall, it's been really good so far. I just really hope it stays hype. I really hope the players don't get bored.
Yeah.
I hope people stay with it. Right. Okay, so we will move on from the TSL. Obviously, we'll keep going. But yes, we'll move on from the TSL and we'll start looking at the next one, which is going to be Wolves Howling. So Furioku, otherwise known as Masara, these two accounts there, he's running the event and it closed last Friday.
Night, pretty much. Yeah.
Was it? No, yesterday. Yesterday was yesterday.
No, yeah, he closed it up like yesterday. It should be starting really soon. I don't think
tomorrow.
I don't think the first round draw is up yet. But yes, he was still locking in the lists, kicking out a few people who didn't submit their list.
And the first round draw is up.
Oh, first round draw is up. Cool. Hadn't seen that myself. In the end, because I'm going away and I'll be away for most of the tournament, I didn't join. I really did want to join this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually think this is quite an interesting tournament because it is no Kickstarter exclusives, no unreleased miniatures, no spoilered miniatures.
It's just...
And yet we see a really high Lannister entry, which is new. Lannisters have been very unpopular without the Mountain that Rides for quite a while, and yet they are the number one most popular faction in this tournament. We have Lannisters, then Baratheons, then Free Folk, then Night's Watch, then Stark at 5, which is very, very interesting. When you look at the factions without the inclusion of any new stuff, I would say that Free Folk and Stark are the two by far most powerful factions for overall tournament wins.
Mm-hmm.
We see that in the Hall of Champions, where we basically just see Free Folk and Starks continuously trading wins.
Yeah.
Except when there are Lannister entries, which are almost exclusively use of Mountain That Rides. And then there's the single one tournament, which has a Night's Watch winner, which is a smaller local event from the US. And so, yeah, it's very interesting to see whether or not these Stark players or Free Folk players are going to take home the prize. I had a quick little glance through. Our very own humble onion smuggler, favorite Baratheon king himself, Stannis 1000th Lord Commander, has gone to the dark side to be playing a classic 10 double activation Howland Rob.
He went for a 10 and an 8.
Oh, sorry.
He went for a 10 and an 8.
Sorry. Okay, he's gone for the 10.
Yeah.
He should be ashamed. No, I think it's really interesting to see some new players playing Starks. We'll see whether or not they still come out on top. See whether or not those Free Folk entries come out on top, or if the Lannisters actually do well with those 24 entries.
I was looking at the Lannister picks actually. If we look at the Lannisters there, 6 High Sparrows, which is the majority there, but there's actually quite a lot of other commanders leaking in. That this is the weird one, right? There are 2 Jaime commanders. Now we have to remember, one of them was Deoxys, because we challenged him to enter a Jaime Mummer list. So we know Deoxys has got his list there. We'll go check that in a second. But somebody else thinks Jaime Commander.
Somebody picked it without being memed into it. Jeez.
So let's go check out that person, because they're either like massive brained or they're mental. It's Chris. It's Chris from the Smaller Council, actually.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at his Jamie list. Jamie Halberdiers, Assault Veteran Halberdiers, Assault Veteran Halberdiers, oh man. And Bron Bastard Girls. Oh man, that's just Halberdiers.
Okay. He's really not scared of a 4+ to hit. That's all you can say about Halberdiers. Halberdiers can be great. It's that 4+. People, myself included, they really favor things that hit on a 3+. Like people they like the consistency. They like it so much more. It's why people shy away from the Stormcrow Mercs in general and stuff like that. Yeah, good luck to him. I really want to see Jamie in a list named Halberds. And yeah, it lives up to its name. It's gonna be an interesting one.
I think.
Tell you what, though. One thing, Baratheons, as much as they've been coming up, Baratheons have very much been struggling playing into Lannisters.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the stats for Baratheons, one of their worst matchups is Lannisters, and there are a ton of Baratheons, so that might make the Lannisters do really well. The Baratheons seem to do very well against the aggressive factions, but they don't like to play into the control style of the Lannisters in this battle of, I'm not going to attack you, well, I'm not going to attack you, I'm not going to attack you. The Baratheons hate that, and then the Lannisters just chipping away with morale-based damage at the same time.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I really want to see where the stats end up on this one. We actually won't end up with that many stats because it's a knockout-based tournament. So the number of games will dwindle quite quickly. But we'll see what happens. We'll see who survives the first round.
I will. This is Deoxy's list. His Jamie list there. Jamie and Bloody Mamas. Legend. But then he's copped out, right? He's gone for 3 units of Poor Fellows.
Classic High Sparrow.
And then his second list: 4 Castle Rock, 1 Poor Fellow, High Sparrow Pycelle. he gonna kick some butt.
You'd say only in TTS, but I mean, like, it's not.
I've seen
it in real life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh man!
Great event, and don't forget, guys, it's a charity event. You can still go and give to that charity for the young kid who has cancer. So if you want to help him out, then do that, because free entry with a big prize. He's doing a good thing.
Definitely.
So don't forget about that one.
Yeah. Big shout out to him there. All right then. So that leads us on from Wolves Howling to a slightly larger tournament and a discussion in itself. We see here the pass rule test. This is a tournament pushing the boat out. Okay, so this is it Australian again? I think it's one of the Australian lot, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it's an Australian tournament anyway.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure they're pretty much exclusively Australians entered, I think, so far.
Yeah.
I recognise most of those names.
So I'll read this out in case you can't see it on stream, but they're adding a rule in. They're adding a rule. At the beginning of a friendly turn, if your opponent has more total remaining unactivated units than you may choose to pass the turn to your opponent. Units that cannot be activated independently, e.g. Skin Changer Bears, do not count towards the activation total for this purpose. So, the example being you've got 4 combat units and 2 NCUs remaining, your opponent has 7 combat units and 1, your turn to act you may pass because they've got more overall units than you do. I was talking a little bit with Deoxys about this.
Interesting.
It's clearly a look at solving what has been seen as a bit of a problem in the meta and in the game at the moment. But we did talk about this. The pass rule comes with its own set of issues.
Yeah.
Definitely. And do I think it will change the meta? Do I think it will change the overall problem set? Yes and no. The issue is that if you want to act first, it doesn't do anything. It literally doesn't change acting first whatsoever. So you can still set up with the last activation of the previous turn into the next activation of the next turn. The first activation of the next turn, sorry. So it doesn't solve the end of round, start of round problem.
No.
The second issue is that usually, if you've got less activations than your opponent, you might use the tactic boards early, but unless you need a certain set of things to then get a charge off at a certain point during the turn, the chances are you'll probably just use all your pass tokens after the tactic board is full.
Mm-hmm.
We already see that with people activating an NCU immediately after the tactic board is empty.
In a lot of ways, the tactics board is currently used as a slightly proactive pass.
Yes.
People in a 3 NCU versus 3 NCU game, the tactics board's going to fill up, and both players, outside of a very few specific, like this is a really important move and needs to happen as soon as possible because it can be countered in whatever way, it's pretty much just like, I'll activate my 3, you activate your 3, because we're both going to waste as many activations as possible, then we're going to get into the game. Which is what it is, but at least they come with additional effects, and you're choosing what order to go in. But yes, the natural extension of that is when there isn't anything important going on the table, is we'll waste some time on the tactics board, and then we'll just move on to wasting some time on the table, if I can pass.
Yep. So does it solve the issue? Not hugely. It does solve the issue where the lower activation force doesn't get outmaneuvered because they can still see a lot more maneuvering from the opponent beforehand. But it's just not quite. I've always been as well. I've always been not, and it's difficult because I'm not against it. This is the thing. I'm not actually against it, but I don't think it's the solution. And then we can see people in chat. You know, how does this work in relation to some factions who have tons of activations? Like, for example, Free Folk. You just take a billion raiders.
Yeah.
Does it actually change the game at all? Or does it just mean that you either just activate all first, because you need to activate first, like charges and things, or you end up with this weird thing where I charge in, and then you let me have 3 activations in a row to try and deal with that charge, and then you charge a second thing in, because you can, because you're allowed to wait until I'm committed on something, or I'm just going to waste activations over here, and you're just going to waste. I feel like it doesn't actually address the core issue. It just kind of like delays the way the turns work. I don't know. I'd have to play.
Here's what I think. Firstly, I would say that I think that in the meta, I've said it before, I think that there is an issue with activations, with high activations being just the best way to play. It's the best competitive way to build almost every faction, is to build it with as many activations into it as you can. For most, you're looking at 40 points to play at 8 activations, even though list building seems to be far more natural at 7. If you want to include any attachments and stuff like that, you're probably talking about 7. But actually, the best thing you can do is just cut everything out, play cheap units, and run at 8. So it's not just a Stark or Free Folk issue. It's still the best way to play Baratheons. It's the best way to play Lannisters, is to play them at 8, to run an NCU commander, to get the free activation, and then run relatively cheap units. That's what I would say. I would start by saying activations is an issue. Yes. I would be very careful because, or what I'm always personally very careful about is I've never proposed a solution.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think it's very, very complex. And you have to be careful of the knock-on effects of anything. Like, you may think that you're solving something, but you're just creating knock-on effects and you're just making something else better. Like, you're just nerfing one thing to create more imbalance somewhere else. So, you know, even I'm not just like, oh, the wolves just need to be nerfed because the 10 activation direwolf list in Starks is too powerful. I say the 10 activation direwolf list is too powerful. I can't tell you what the solution is. That's a ton of play testing, a ton of different ideas, a ton of balancing away from a solution. So, that's where I'd start by saying, this is an interesting idea. I would be very careful in that it's not actually really a controlled study, because suddenly everyone will play low activation lists, I think, in this tournament.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to see a sudden flip reversal, and it's interesting. What I do like about the tournament, is it's giving a new set of like competitive structures, and it's saying, so if I gave you this new rule, who can make the best list, who can play the best, who understands the game the best, and that's really interesting as a competitive test.
Agreed.
For the players.
Massively.
As a test for the players, I think it's a really, really competitive, interesting way to play. I don't think it's a brilliant test for the rule itself, but I love things like that, and that's kind of why I created the idea of me forcing a faction and commanders on you, because forcing you to adapt the way you play is a great test of how good a player is. And I'm really interested to see how the results and player results of this tournament come out, see if players can adapt and who wins and what they chose to pick. I don't necessarily think it will prove anything about whether or not the rule is good. I wouldn't start looking into it and saying, oh, that means that, look, Stark's only won 50% of their games in this tournament, therefore this rule has solved Stark balance and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
brilliant idea. Love the tournament. Love those things. I don't want to, even before it kicks off, I don't want to read too much into the results that come out from it, because, yeah, that's very different. That's a very different type of cause and effect as opposed to real statistical analysis.
Definitely.
Let's put it that way.
I do think it's looking good. I mean, I spoke with Deoxys about another tournament that they are proposing. One thing that we've talked about as well. And you mentioned it earlier in chat a little bit, but limiting activations, right? So
yeah,
we talked about it, and you could play a 40-point tournament, and you limit the number of activations that any army allowed is 7. You might then, depending on how you wanted to play it and how as a TO or how the tournament was going to be structured, we did talk about the effect that would have on free folk. You might up that in a specific case to 8 or 9 for just free folk. Because of the issue being that you'd end up not taking any raiders, and then it just ends up being, well, my units on the whole are worse than your units statistically. Not allowing a faction to take half of its tools is an issue. But that in itself obviously impacts the rules.
Until now, I instinctively hate it.
Of course, yeah, so do I.
I'm not on board. Like, my instant thoughts are, I'm not on board with it. It's very different to the core way that the game works at the moment, and the advantage of activation count is somewhat unintended. I'd prefer smaller things, and again, they have much bigger knock-on effects, but more like priority for the next turn is with the person who didn't take the last activation in the last round or something like that.
Yeah.
But again, I think that has huge knock-on consequential effects. Like, even that very small thing could be huge, because then if I'm playing the smaller army, I will always act first every turn, and first activation is crazy powerful in this. So, I'll just grab whatever zone I like every single turn. I could build a really small list, which I know that every single round I will get the zone I want. I could run Walder, and I will know I will always be first player because I'm only running 6 activations, for example. Those kind of things, they're still big steps away, even with very tiny adjustments. They're very big steps away from the way the game has currently been designed and balanced. So, every little change can have huge knock-on effects. So that's why like I say, people who think that they have the answers, I don't think that they do. It's not wrong to question when something should be changed, but to believe that something will be simple to solve is never the case.
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah. But it's interesting to see all these different variants coming up. Potential solutions, looking at things and saying, actually, which is the best? Because this is another thing, right? We talk about competitive balance a lot. But another thing is actually finding what works for the players and what is fun to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things can be competitively balanced, but actually that doesn't make it fun.
Yeah. For
Um,
me, for
so
me personally, the only thing that's bad for me about the fact that the high activation count is the best way to play the game is that the attachments are fun, but to play competitively, you should basically get rid of all named characters from your list. Like named characters that cost 2 and 3 points for combat unit attachments almost exclusively don't bring enough value. And that's the unfortunate part. I would rather the game was favoring really powerful attachments and people get to make cool, powerful units. But that's not what the game favors. The game favors really boring, cheap stuff. Cheap things that are either very explosive or very defensive. So we're talking about Wardens, very defensive, 5 points. Cutthroats, very cheap and very explosive. Like they're some of the most efficient things in the game. Your conscripts at 4 points, your poor fellows at 5 points. Like these units are the highest win rates, and you'd think that they'd be even better with certain attachments that like make these things happen. But when you look on the list building advice on the stats builder, you find that almost every single unit in the game has its highest win rate when used without an attachment at all.
yep.
And that's how things are.
I was gonna actually add a little bit of a kind of like a runner to that kind of thing. The I noticed it the other day. I played a 30-point tournament game, and talking about this was Starks. Okay, Starks Sworn Swords. Now, yes, I know that Starks have wolf activations and all this, but actually, I experienced the Stark player having Rickon in a unit of Stark Sworn Swords. Now, Rickon in a Stark Swords unit doesn't give them anything. Right? There's no power. There's no inherent power change in that at all. And he gets a devastating impact, 2 automatic wounds because he's got horses. After manoeuvring and then doing whatever he wants, does all of this, and he wiped a unit of Unsullied off the board in one attack because he's got crit blow and he's got devastating impact. That's a 5-point unit. What possible 3-point attachment can you put in that to make that any better?
To make it more than 1.5 times as good.
Yes. You can't. You cannot take. Now, admittedly, it was a flank charge, right? And he had I think it was one of Direwolf Fervor or something. He made them vulnerable. Or he can't make them vulnerable. He can't be vulnerable as Unsullied. What am I talking about? So I think it was just a flank charge, I think, or he gave himself Sundering. So I was saving on the 5s, not the 4s. But the point is that that's still ridiculously high damage output for a cheap unit.
Yeah.
And I've always talked about this. So we've already talked about Cutthroats. I charged his full unit of Stark Sworn Swords with a unit of Cutthroats. I played a card to give myself crit blow, and I wiped him off the face of the earth in one attack.
Yeah.
And it's just like
these are our base. They're just like this is what baseline 5-point units can do. And
yes.
as long as baseline 5-point units can do this, there seems no need. Like, why would I pick 2 7-point units when I could have 3 5-point units that are able to do that?
Yeah.
Most importantly, because the 3 5-point units allow me to get into the position and to control the activation so that I'm always the one who gets to do that first.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't work, you counter and wipe me off the board, but I've still got 2 units. I now kill you. We've traded off. I've got 2 units of 5 points left. You've got 1 unit of 7 points left. That's the issue.
And the attachments coming into that.
The solution is hard. The solution is hard.
Yeah.
There are many ways that you could try at it. And for example, Carl's just put, raise the point of NCU costs. Yes, NCUs are most people's way of getting high activation counts, but that doesn't solve the fact that your 5-point unit is still your best choice. If anything, you raise the cost of NCUs. What I'm going to do personally is I'm going to still buy the same army, but that one expensive 8-point unit I used to buy, no, that's going to become another 5-point unit. So I'm going to spend 3 more points on my NCUs, and now I'm just going to have 5 5-point units instead of 4 5-point units. and a 1 Knights of Casterly Rock. Now I'm just going to have 5 Poor Fellows plus my NCU choices. Like,
so
the issue is about the efficiency of a 5-point unit, really, I think, is what we're actually worried about. For me, it could be something more like it's incredibly impossible for them to achieve now, but like it's more like a unit needs to have 16 wounds so that these things can't happen.
Well, why I've always said that Raiders as a 5-point unit would be a brilliant baseline. Imagine if you bought Raiders for 5 points. Now people might be going, "Oh my god, that's awful," but actually as a baseline stat line, yes, they'll never. First of all, without any buffs at all, there is no chance they can wipe a unit. They simply don't do enough damage. It requires an attachment. It requires multiple attacks. It requires card play. Whereas, for example, Cutthroats, they can, if they get all of those hits and they all go through the armor, but they make you vulnerable if they attack you when you're unactivated. So there is a chance they can get a lot of those hits through. Then they've got the Vicious. All of these things stack up. Stark Fury, you get a +1 to hit and you get crit blow. Like, that's insane.
So,
all of these things, you know.
Greg wants to make attacks less powerful by turning 3+ to hit into 4+ to hit, I think, if I've read it right. 4+ to hit to 5+ to hit, 5+ to 6+. Okay, interesting idea. We're talking about the fact that units are too powerful, too explosive for their value. So then, particularly, cheaper units are overperforming. It's an interesting way, but okay, here's again, like, it's more complex than you think. If you just make units go from a 3+ to a 4+ to hit, then all you're going to do is increase the value of the charge itself. The charge still becomes the most important thing. Hitting on a 4+ with rerolls is going to become incredibly powerful versus hitting on 4+ in a protracted combat. And I hate the fact that it makes the game more luck-based, right? It makes the game less predictable. I'm not a big fan of luck-based things. I already dislike charges from Lance Cavalry where players will just play for their 6 crit blows, and if they get them, they're going to blow your unit up, and if they don't, they're going to get stuck in a protracted combat. Again, there are knock-on effects, and again, I'm not saying wrong answer, bad choice, that doesn't work. I'm saying there are it's so complex, and actually for me, I think maybe it's just that I'm more aware of the game now than I was, but I think that all of its root might be in the panic changes. Maybe. Panic has become such a reliable way to do 3 wounds that so many things are now within range of destroying something reliably. Anything with Vicious can so reliably make somebody fail a panic check and take 3 to 4 wounds that if they can get you anywhere close to only having to do 5 wounds on the charge, something like that, they get you down just a few wounds, those Cutthroats are going to kill you. Whereas old rules, that was actually way less likely to happen.
Or more. Or more likely with the likes of Free Folk.
On who you were. And if you had bad morale, we've valued up these bad morale units because we've limited how much damage they can take. And yet we've increased the amount of damage that these elite units are taking from panic because reliably they can still take 3 as long as you can get a fail.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard. It's hard. The panic changes.
It's super hard. It's super hard, and it's super hard tangent. And honestly, I haven't got the answer. You know what I mean?
We don't.
It's easy. And in the same way, it's easy to point at the rule and say, "Oh, this isn't quite working right." But then at the same time, almost every answer I think that somebody could give me, I could point at it and say, "Okay, but I don't think that's it because of this." You can pick holes in anything. You can pick holes in the game, and I can pick holes in your answers. About how you want to fix it, but it's not easy. So we play the game that we have. But I think it's a back to the original point. I think it's a super interesting tournament, and I'm super interested to see who wins, what they field, and
talk to the players
and how it changes.
We'll we'll talk to the players, and we know Deoxys, we'll know somebody like the likes of DeBorder and likes are probably entered. But we'll talk to the players and we'll get their feelings on it. And I think that's important as well. How did you think it did? Do you think it was a better change, or did you think it was worse? Do you think it favoured something? Because these players are, they are international players. They are decent international players as well. We see them in the likes of the TSL and other things like that. So, yeah. Okay, then. We'll move on. We'll finally move on after our little diatribe there. This
Good
tournament
discussion,
here, Torneo El Rey NL Norte.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try and translate that.
No, yeah, let's not try. I'm gonna with something in the north.
Yes.
First tourney,
Ray
something
Rex,
in the north.
Spanish, is that Spanish for king?
Yeah,
I'm
probably.
sure.
Yeah,
Euron.
King in the north.
Euron speaks.
Tournament for king in the north.
Euron speaks Spanish, so Euron might be able to translate this for us. But I'm pretty sure it's king in the north.
Hey, look, it's run by the king, so there you go.
That's great. Right then.
It's a tournament that was played in person. The person who put it up sent me a message, which was great. Love to hear from people. Gave him a little bit of help getting set up on the site. It's a whole set of people, all of whom were brand new to the site, so that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they seem to have a good competitive group there down in Santander in Spain. They played a tournament, and what do you know? It was won by Starks.
Starks first.
Holland Classic.
Stark second with Great John Howland. Stark third with Great John Howland. Night's Watch fourth. They're all the people who had 10 points or more tournament points.
Yeah. But hey, when a tournament's won by a Rob Howland pairing combo, I instantly say, you know what? It's probably a relatively competitive gaming group. They know what the current meta's about, and they're pretty good. So yeah, great tournament. Great to see them. A new entry into the Hall of Champions, and it's another Stark.
How are we going there? There we go. Yeah, and yes, the other tournament we were going to talk about, we kind of revealed it just there as well. The Maritimes tournament, which is now over. We have talked about this one a couple of times. I'll try and find it on here. Random Army tournament. Is it this one? Yep. And it was Ariakas who won it. Ariakas, it was only a small tournament. But Engineer Harry and Artonis, these guys are now
quite a high average player count. Obviously, Ariakas himself brings a ton of points to that. There aren't that many players, but that's what's interesting about the site and useful about the site. It will rate how good your players are, and we know that there are some, even in just those 4 players, there are some pretty high quality players. So to just say, oh, it only had 4 players, doesn't mean anything. But still, tell you what's interesting here: Ariakas wins playing Starks. He ran Roos and Ramsey this time. They're an interesting combo. I would say that they're not the most competitive Stark pairing, and yet the Starks still managed to come through. They still bring tools. I think that they are the poor man's Howland and Rob. So they bring their own options, and yeah.
So the Howland, sorry, the Roos list. It's not a Howland list. It's a Roos list. That is his Howland list. That is his Howland list.
You've swapped Howland out for Roos.
Yeah, that's it.
Ramsey, it's still the powerhouse things.
I think that's basically his Rob list. Although he does run play Ben
with Rickon and Shaggy Dog. You're utilizing the same tools. You're just playing with slightly different tactics cards.
Yeah. But yeah, another Stark winner. Another Stark goes into the Hall of Champions. This is, we talk about. Let's just quickly nip over to the faction rankings. We talk about Stark being the best. Now we can see them down in 4th right now. They're not actually dominating like they have been, but this is kind of like the issue we've talked about multiple times now. Starks themselves are not doing well.
Not badly, but they're not dominant. Let's put it that way. They're not dominant.
But what they have is this bizarre powerhouse in this Howland Rob, or Roos Ramsey, but it's Howland Rob, or sometimes Howland. You could sometimes people run it with like Great John, or sometimes it's Roderick, or sometimes Brendan. But the point is they run very two similar lists. It's Howland 10/11 activation list, and there's Rob kind of like 8/9 activation list. And those are the lists that do well. And the problem, and this is where it tells right now. If you go into
Berserkers with Bran and Hodor, maybe you've either got Sworn Swords if you got the spare point, or Stormcrow Mercenaries with Rickon. Like these plus some power play NCUs, and it's the same things. It's the same ingredients in every one of these lists that does well.
And you see them there.
You can pull them out.
You can see them there. Howland is now up to 120 and Rob is at 80, which are very high. They're not the highest. There are other commanders up there who are equally high. But then the next commander down is at 20 at Eddard.
Yeah.
And then everyone else pretty much is unplayed or negative. This, in my opinion, this is actually moving into a bad game state. Because the internal faction balance of Starks is not looking particularly healthy. Now, I know you can have, a small change.
What's super interesting for me is that Howland is so overtly powerful. Let's just park him. But that's like, let's just say, I mean, High Sparrow, Courtney Penrose, like so many factions, their NCU commander is significantly their best choice by a long way right now. That's just part of what the game state is. Howland just also happens to be in a super powerful faction that can like abuse activations.
Yep.
Rob, I also personally believe, is a super powerful combo with him. I don't quite get why we still see people running Roderick, Brendan pairings, Great John pairings, and stuff like that. Like, they're so obviously worse than those two choices, competitively speaking. Like, I'm not a Stark player. Maybe you know something about them that's like so amazing, but the stats say you're wrong. Your stats say play Howland, play Rob. You have got a very good chance of winning a tournament. Bang, just end of. Just put those things in your list, and you are better than everybody else. Maybe people are just bored of it. Maybe people just want a challenge, and that definitely could be a case. I just don't think the other commanders bring what you think they bring. Being defensive is not what the Starks want to be. They want to always be charging. They wanna be the aggressor, and they do that by manipulating the activation count.
Now, on the flip side, I've just jumped over to the Commander ELO rankings here, though. Like, Starks are up there with Howland at 1 and, say, Rob's now at 5 in terms of comparative ways. But the ones that are also up there, let's look at the above 50. So, that's Harmer and above, we can see here. So 7th and above. Lannister. Are the next one up there with, High Sparrow, we can park him. Joffrey brings a really strong unit with him. And Tyrion, incredible control. We've talked about this a lot before. But Lannister right now look like one of the best internal balance factions there is. In terms of
that's not internal balance. Go to the bottom of the list.
But this is the point I'm trying to make.
Tywin, right? Tywin, like what we have
literally at the very bottom. He doesn't even fit on my screen.
Powerful NCU commander. We have commander who brings cards which have very explosive damage, and the Kingsguard who are incredibly good. And just like Rickon, giving up VPs when you die is not a problem when you're that good. Like, you're that powerful, you bring so much to the table that the VPs you give up, not an issue. Don't care. You could make me worth 5 VPs when I die. I'm still gonna play it because I'm just not gonna die because I'm that good. Not as a player, but as a unit. And then after that, we see Tyrion, who's a very specific style of activation control, always known to be strong. And then we just see another NCU choice. Roose just happens to only synergize particularly well with the Lannisters. There's your picks. NCU, activation control, overpowered unit, which comes with a negative downside, which isn't that negative. Every one of their other commanders is terribly ranked. Like, Gregor, as good as people think he is, no. bad ranking, not good. Like, you have to play into these specific styles if you want. We've got those 4 commanders up there, and you can say, okay, that's internal balance. Look at all these choices you have. Your next best commander is ranked 40th.
Yep.
And
Although
it's Vargo Hote.
that's within, I would argue that's within 20, within 20 points, he would raise all the way up to around 20th. There's a lot of people clustered around that 0 mark, but I do agree. And having Tywin as literally the worst, but then it's like for Starks you've got Roderick, Brynden, and Greatjon, all in the bottom 5.
Yeah. I agree.
These are factions that we agree are clearly good factions, and they have some powerful tools. They're very strong, but at the moment, some of these commanders are falling by the wayside, and I think this is probably what's dragging them down the rankings. If anything, is more people playing these weak commanders.
Yeah.
They don't even have to be that much weaker to see actually quite a significant drop in win rate, and as a result, yellow changes.
So I just this week I played. I've managed to play some real games in person, which was brilliant. Woo! I decided to give one of my old favorites, Tywin, a run out, partly because he's so low ranked, and I was like, hey, he's not that bad. Like, I used to play him; he was fine. So I put like relatively classic Tywin lists that I used to play on. I'm still using powerful units, and this isn't some fluffy list. I'm taking Tywin, and I'm like, I'm gonna make a powerful Tywin list. Tywin's in Blackguard. Generally one of the things that he's accepted to be good in and stuff like that. And I'm just there, and I'm sitting there with these defensive reactionary cards, and I'm just thinking every single turn, I'm like, I wish I had somebody else. Like, every single turn when I look at him now, and I've played more aggressive, control-based Lannister things, I've played lots of Tyrion, been playing so much High Sparrow myself and stuff like that. I'm looking at these cards, and I draw a commander command card, and I think, man, I wish I was a different commander, because I would just rather have a different card.
Yeah.
Not all commanders were born equal, and that's unfortunate.
Definitely.
Personally, I think the reason why Tywin's last. I don't think he's last. I don't think he's the worst commander in the game, but of all the commanders that you think could be good, he's not as good as you think he is. So he gets played more often than he should. And that's similar for the other Stark commanders. They have things that make you think they're good, but it's a trap. They're not actually good.
And it's a shame. And it comes back to the issue, I think, coming around to attachments. The cards are good, or at least okay, but the thing that they bring on the table perhaps isn't. I mean, what does Tywin bring? Does he just...
Weakens somebody when he activates. When he activates, he weakens somebody within long range.
Right. And he also brings Lannister Supremacy, doesn't he?
I like his on-field ability. It's just... all his cards are so reactionary. They require your opponent to do something that you want them to do. And it's hard to make people do stuff that you want them to do. Like, that's the problem with Brynden. Like, it's hard to make somebody charge you in the front. Like, to play your set for charge and stuff like that. Like,
I mean, if
players aren't walking into that.
If you're paying your commander choice and his cards, obviously, that come along with that, and you're paying your entire commander choice in what I look as a Chosen of Styre, basically, which I would get for 1 point, which I know you can't cross-compare factions, but that commander ability is not bad, but when you've already got access to Pycelle and you're probably running him in a Tywin list, like...
Yeah. He also brings Lannister Supremacy, which is a great ability again. But it's an ability your opponent has to walk into. He has to want to attack that unit. And I mean, Carl, in some ways, Tywin's. When you look at it, you can say, God, Tywin has to be better than that. But honestly, all I can say is play him for yourself. If you think he's that much better, play him, and you'll find out that he's probably not. Like, and Pycelle is OP, but Pycelle's got a perfect pairing with Tywin. Tywin loves weakened tokens. Pycelle giving them out continuously. You'd think that it'd be this perfect marriage, but Pycelle doesn't do that much for him. And don't play Tywin and run Pycelle anyway, because Pycelle is just a gimme at 3 points. Absolute gimme.
Yeah, we'll move on, but it is hilarious when a giant rolls.
Oh god,
three ones.
I mean, of course he can win. Of course he can win. You know, like Tyrant doesn't lose 100% of games, but yeah, 111. Ooh.
Yeah, Deoxys.
If you haven't seen it, check it out. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
That was a meme. That was meme worthy. How long did it take me to develop that? How long did it take me to get that meme out there? Like 5 minutes, if that.
Bad giants.
Yeah, giants. Giants bad. No. Right, so that was just a quick detour into the commander rankings there. We've kind of hit most of what we wanted to talk about. There are some other things we're going to mention today. We have got it's right there, clearly blind. The Masters Championship, run by us here at Stats. It's closing. Its second round is closing soon, right?
Well, yeah.
The
it's
second round of
invite-based tournament. 16 top-ranked players. I'd say top-ranked as opposed to the top 16, because we have 8 players who were the top 8 ranked players, apart from myself, of course, because you know I'd just win. You know, come on now.
He's bad.
The top 8 players when I first opened up the tournament. These are players who just happen to be really high ranked, use the site, win tournaments, do well, all without needing the carrot of wanting to enter the Masters Championship. In 1 week's time, about next Saturday, I will invite 4 more people who are the 4 highest ranked players who are not currently in the event. Let's have a little look. That to me looks like.
So Viper is in. Larks is in. Mazara Furuoku is in. You're not playing.
Yeah.
Ariakas is in. Crag would fall into.
Crag would be invite number 1.
Psychopath is in.
He's in.
Mahoney's Law. He
would
falls
get
into
the second invite.
The 10th slot.
Viking Tony would come in
at number 11.
And the border would come in at number 12, just 1 point ahead of the person below him.
Bazoo,
who's running Gold on Dice and is a big player in the Malta region. So, yeah, I mean, that's where we're at. But who will it be in 1 week? We'll see. Crag has maybe enough points and enough places to be happy enough that he will be there, but we'll see. I mean, other players. I know that there are players going for it, and that's really brilliant. That's what I was hoping to see. I was hoping that players would want to enter and compete, and so are specifically looking for games to increase their ranking. They're looking for opponents, and to do that, they should be trying to play other high-ranked players, because that's where you'll get points from. You don't up at 1600, 1650. Kind of rankings that are going to get you into this tournament, you don't get a whole lot of points for playing Howland in a game against some 1500 ranked player. That's a lot of pressure to win and not a lot of bonus for doing so. And if you lose, you're going to really fall. You're going to fall hard. So, what you should be looking to do is play really close matchups against other high-ranked players, and that's the real test of the rankings, and will really be good stuff. But we'll see where we're at in 1 week. I'm excited for it.
I'm just trying to work out how many points. As the second, if it was to close all at the end of this week, assuming no one changed, we'd have Bazoo, George, Open City, Furuoku Joxes, they're all in, Euron, and Rossi.
So,
I need to get 10 points this week, at least. Ideally more.
10 points a week for the next 3 weeks, at least.
I'll beat my free folk opponent in the TSL. That'll help.
Yeah, that will be a win, but I wouldn't rely on tournament results to get you up there. I would be, for all of these players, I'd be looking to organise extra games against these players. And, you know, you might even pick up some relatively easy points because the players that are already in the tournament have not a lot to lose. They're not going to get kicked out. Hopefully, they're not going to be throwing games against you. But I think, yeah, you will be bringing your absolute A game if you're trying to qualify.
Definitely.
So try and find some top ranked players to play.
Definitely. All right, so that is the Masters tournament there. So if you're not currently challenging those players there, so Crag, Mahoney's Law Viking, Lorraine, Viking Tony, and Border, get yourself out there, play some more games, get as many wins under your belt as you can. You've got best part of 5 days, ends Friday. Is it Friday that we're going to do it?
I think it's on Saturday.
Or is it on Saturday?
5th?
The 5th. Yeah, Saturday. So is that going to be GMT midnight?
I'll be in Ireland, so maybe not midnight. Let's call it. Let's
UTC. That could be UTC 0.
I'll say midday, 12 o'clock midday GMT. I of course reserve the right to not invite you if I don't want to. What I actually mean by that is if I think that you're manipulating the rankings with either fake results or you're refusing to verify games that you've lost in so that your ranking stays high or anything like that. If I think that you're acting funny, then I might just not invite you. But I seriously doubt that that's going to happen. Point is when I get up on Saturday, really technical, specific timing. When I get up on Saturday the 5th, I'll have a look and I'll send out some Facebook messages, some Discord messages to invite people. Of course, you might get lucky and somebody above you might not even be able to enter the tournament, and you might not even have to be in the next 4. But so far, nobody said no.
Yeah, no one said no, right? Yeah. Cool. Right then, lads. Right then, boys and girls. We'll end this week there, but before we end this week, we're obviously going to have to say goodbye to Carlo for the foreseeable future. What, 3 weeks is it? 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be in Ireland for 2, Scotland for 1, up all over the country. It's not like there's a pandemic or anything, so, you know. But no, I'll be in the middle of nowhere for almost a lot of time. I will be on the internet at times, but probably no new major developments, which actually mostly means nothing will just randomly start breaking on the site, which is what new developments actually really means for the site mostly.
Yeah, mostly.
But yeah, it'll be quite a while. Probably not see me on a video for about 3 to 4 weeks now.
Yeah. Carlo does like springing some lovely late night, early morning updates, which I then log into, you know, before work or something. 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, there's messages piled up being like, oh, something's not working, and I'm like, Carlo, you broke it, and you've gone to bed. Right, so yeah, we will be back. Because Carlo's gone, and we know that Carlo is the man who runs all these things. We are still going to be here, or at least I'm still going to be here. So still expect content. We'll still be putting out the videos. It'll be a slightly different take on things. There's a little bit hiatus for Carlo, his holiday, if you will. But that brings me into an interesting development. Obviously, you guys, however many, I think 14 people watching at the moment, you guys are the people that watch the most. If you've got any requests for people you want me to have on in these live sessions, send me a request, because I'm more than happy to get a guest or 2 on. If you think you have something to bring to these sessions, drop me a message, and I'm sure I will. Let's say I will vet you to see if you're worthy of coming on. The answer is yes. You can't possibly be more stupid than me and Carlo.
Yeah, couldn't possibly do a worse job.
Couldn't possibly do a worse job.
More people.
So yeah, so we will be back next week. We will be continuing the series. It's
Brett's
not just going to be on
Greg. He's the one person who's been on this show already. Come on now, let's have somebody new.
If you miss Brett, go back and watch that episode and leave comments and likes and subscribes, obviously. But yeah, no. If anyone's got anyone's got anyone they want to bring on, or if there's anyone that I fancy bringing on myself, you never know. We might have our very own Canadian. Yeah, I might get Canadian blood on. You never know. Might get some Australian blood on here, or yeah, get Ben on. Actually, I might be able to get Ben on. I'm sure he won't mind.
Time zones, man. I mean, I'm pretty sure Deoxys is the only Australian who's going to be up. So, you know, Ben's a maybe, but he's like 8 hours ahead. So
Ben's also a little bit like insane, like you, right?
Yeah, that would be about. He'd have to want to stay up till about 2 a.m. and I don't think he likes us that much.
He doesn't like Carly that much, anyway.
No, nobody likes me that much. Maybe people like Mickey that much. People like Mickey that much.
Oh,
Mickey's the nice guy.
Clearly. Right, anyway, guys, we'll leave it there. So thanks a lot for coming down again. It's been a great little session there today. And we will catch you, well, I will catch you next week. Take it easy, guys.
Have fun, guys. See you soon.